Welcome to Martini Time. I just moved my camera over a little bit so you can see something else. Other side of this, this particular piece here is a huge, huge yin yang with shelves on it. And a number of years ago, a friend said, "Well, you ought to see that furniture up in the attic of that furniture stores. It's where they have used stuff." And I went up there, and oh, there it was. One of those things. So, the title of this talk is The Unconditioned Father. The Unconditioned Father. That means the Father that gives unconditioned love. So let's go into that and take a look at that. I was talking to a friend of mine about that, and it's come up today in several ways. And I looked at this. You see here, right here, this is this guy right there. See, that's my Uncle Tommy. If you notice, I'm wearing his shirt and I'm drinking his martini. He's got a martini here. Let me see. There he is. So, see? And he's got his little frog here. It says happy hour. And so let's talk about the search for the unconditional Father. And so since I'm 80 years old, I can look back and I can see the track of this search, like you were tracking a hurricane. You can look look where that thing is going. It's going like this, you see. So I can look back and track the search for the unconditional Father. And the first one, and I think this we get the blessing of a conditioned Father. Now here's where you may disagree with me, but a conditioned Father is a judgmental Father, one who does not approve of you unless you are fit his image of perfection. So you have to fit his image of perfection, and if you don't, well, then you're disapproved of. So that's conditioned. Love conditioned upon a certain way of being, and this creates a double bind in the child because you are the way you are. But the commandment is, no, you should be the way you should be. So then if you try to be the way you should be, you're inauthentic because you are who you are. But if you try, but then you have to have the Father's love. So this creates a neurosis. This creates a split in the mind, which is what I've been talking about here lately. How to heal the split in the mind. Well, here's where it starts. This contradiction between who I am and who I'm supposed to be. So if the Father does not accept you unconditionally, then he is placing, whether he likes it or not, whether he knows he's doing it or not, mostly they don't know they're doing it. They think they're just being a good father. But that places a command on the child to be inauthentic. He has to be spontaneously what he is not. You see how that really can screw you up? And it comes in all kinds of forms. When the mother says, you go to and as a photographer, I mean, good Lord, I mean, the kids come and the mother says, "Now try to smile," and the kid goes, "Ee." You have to undo it. The kid can't try to smile. Smiling is spontaneous. They don't know how to smile. Then they may learn. Older girls come in and they can smile perfectly because they've learned how to smile. They know how to pose, you see. The smile looks really good, Politicians know how to smile. So you learn how to smile. But the child doesn't know. So right there, you can see the contradiction. Try to be spontaneous. Try to be good. What does that mean to a child? Well, I thought I'm good as my being. My being is good, so I got to try to be what I'm not. So usually that turns into, well, I'm going to be bad. If that's what you think I am, I'm going to be bad. Or it creates an inauthentic kid who's always in, I don't know which way to go. Which is good, Dad? Should I go this way or that? So they're always looking at the parent to see if they're doing good, you see. And they always screw up because their mind's divided. One eye's on the parent to see if they're doing good, and the other one's on what they're doing. And they can't act spontaneously. They can't act from the body. So they get divided. And then they grow into adulthood. And then culture does it. Culture says, try to be this, be that. But so I got to fit into that. I got to fit into these things. And it creates a neurosis, an inconsistency. I was diagnosed by my yoga teacher with having inconsistency in my lower nature. I had a big one. But anyway, to get back to the search for the unconditional father, so we create then, given that we have this neurosis, and we all have it. Very few of us have unconditional parents in that sense, where you don't, but then when you have unconditional parents who don't make any commands on your authenticity, you run smack up into society, which is also a parent, which makes demands on your authenticity. It's almost impossible to be authentic in this society, you see, without running into conflict with society. Who do you think you are, Jesus? Fit in. So we find little groups. Anyway, that's another thing. So we're looking at the search for the unconditional father, and I might call that the surrogate father. Okay? So if we have a conditioned father, and again, in more ways than one, fathers raise their kid with some conditions on behavior. I mean, that's part of we have to have that. I'm not saying the father should, just go do what you want to. Okay, pee on the floor, that's all right. No, I'm not saying that. But what we're looking at is a condition in which you don't feel approved of no matter what you do. And that creates a search for a surrogate father. So we're going to find substitute fathers in our life, or substitute mothers in our life, where we get that unconditional space. So my first one was my Uncle Robbie when I was sixth grade. I went to live with my Uncle Robbie and Aunt Aretha, who lived in Jacksonville, and he hunted and fished. And I lived with them for about 6 months while my father was being transferred to another duty station. And Uncle Robbie took me hunting and fishing, and oh God, I remember every detail, every little hunting trip, every fishing trip. He gave me a gun and let me wait to shoot a squirrel. And he was so understanding. He didn't have a son. Aretha and Robbie didn't have a son. So they enjoyed having a son for those 6 months. But it was unconditional love. Even when I spilled a can of worms on their good rug in the morning, I didn't hurt. I didn't spill it on them. It was just on the rug. So we go through life looking to create and find surrogate fathers where we can repair the wound of the unconditioned or the conditioned father. So this is the good and the bad of the father. See, every father is both good and bad. They're ambiguous. There's a good face and a bad face. So what could be the good face of the bad face? You say, what could be? Well, a lot of us have bad parents, and we're still pissed off about it. They made me what I am, that kind of blame, you see. Or regret, or, all of this stuff, you see. Hope I don't do it to my kid what he did to me. We can be sure we will, because it's unconscious. But anyway, I don't want to scare you. But the point is that I value my father. Even now, after I've gone through some surrogate fathers, and was able to heal the pain of my biological father, I can see the whole father instead of just the bad-faced father, you see. So in a way, the father who is disapproving father will create the desire to find the real father, will create the desire to find your completeness. See, because the disapproving father leaves you incomplete. In unconditional love, when you find love that's unconditional, you are complete. You find your completeness. That's why we remember any relationship in which we get where there's unconditional love. Most of us never experience that. And if we do, we think it's a miracle, you see. But a friendship can be a space of unconditional love where you can just share without judgment, without being disapproved of. We so need that space, you see. It creates a virtuous circle. The disapproving relationship creates a vicious circle. V and V, vicious or virtuous. Virtuous means that we expand. Vicious means we contract. You see the difference? Expanding, no boundaries, no judgment. Vicious, contraction, judgment, retreat, pain, suffering, regret, guilt. The guilt of, see, this is where the guilt of the disapproving father comes in. You feel guilty for not measuring up to the father. And religion that creates a disapproving God carries on the guilt theme, guilting. And culture guilts us. Culture guilts us by not accepting our authenticity, our peer group, towns. My wife grew up in Blackstone. The big fear of growing up in a small town is, what will people think? You don't want to wear that, what will people think? You don't want to say that, what will people think? Oh, guilt. Guilt is the glue of small town communities. What will people think? That's very deep, that's very unconscious. What will people think? Fear of the future, guilt, shame. If they knew what I was thinking. You see. So search for the surrogate father. If I can stay on track here. My first surrogate father was my Uncle Robbie. And I don't think I found another surrogate father until 1987 when I got a job with the Courier Record. It's a local newspaper. And the editor, Doug Colburn, though very much of a disapproving personality, I became the writer, but he gave me the space to write from my heart. So whatever I wanted to write about, go right ahead. This is the space for you. Right on the front page, you see. But he would always say when I handed him my feature, well, there's nothing wrong with that. He couldn't say, that's really a great piece. He would say, there's nothing wrong with it. All right, you take what you can get. But the point is, that was the first time in my life, believe you, that I discovered the unconditional space for my creativity. And getting paid for it. I go, wow, I'm getting paid to do this, you see. So then after that, I think the next, besides my gurus, I'll go back to that maybe, my teachers, my spiritual masters, were all unconditional fathers. But I'm talking about the physical fathers now. So there was Robbie back when I was in 6th grade, and then all the way to Doug Colburn, and writing for I wrote for 8 years. And then I don't think I had another surrogate physical father until my Uncle Tommy. So when I went down to, this was in 2012, I went down to Tampa where he lived. He was my mother's younger brother, so we'd been visiting for the previous 10 years. But anyway, his partner was dying with cancer, so I went down there to take care of his affairs because he was paralyzed by a stroke. And so I went down there, and I became his caretaker in the sense that there was no family there for him. I was it. And so you're it. And at first, he didn't, I needed power of attorney because I had to be able to sell the house and pay the bills and all that. And he said, no. The lawyer came over. No, I don't want to give it to him. No, I don't want to give it to Eddie. That was what my family called me, Eddie. You see. So Eddie wasn't ready yet. So anyway, things progressed to where he had to move up here, and so we moved him up here. And then the lawyer came and he gave me power of attorney. He said, "Okay, you're the boss." Now that was a big deal, because you give somebody power of attorney, you're giving them responsibility for your life. You trust them. You trust them, you see. And that was very powerful for me. That's why I still wear his shirts. He trusted me, you see. So this, and that's unconditional love. If it's conditional, well, I hold back a little bit here. Got a little insurance policy in case you fuck me up, you see. So I won't give you everything. I won't trust and say, here's everything. That's what unconditional love is. It says, here's everything. No conditions. No boundaries. This is it, the whole thing. You see, the full Monty. You see, that's what unconditional love is. So what happens, you see, is that when you experience unconditional love, it moves you to the place where you can give unconditional love to the world. And then you can accept other people unconditionally. Somebody comes to the door, you open the door, welcome. There's no like, oh, what? Who do you want? What do you want? See what I mean? It's just come in unconditionally. Open, you see. So it becomes a way of relating to the world. And we have to grow through that. We have to discover that reality is unconditional. And our conditional love of ourself and our reality contracts us into a tiny, tiny, tiny space, like being painted into a corner. And we regret, and we're guilty, and we're ashamed, and we fear, and we feel like we're not worthy, you see. Not worthy of the Father's love. So there's so many different layers and way to see this and everything. So I'm trying to thread a little line here of the way I trace it with people in my life. Robbie and the editor of the paper and my uncle. And then I had my spiritual masters, Swami Rama and Swami Muktananda. And the thing about a guru or a spiritual master or a spiritual teacher, if they're real, it's unconditional. And you feel that. You feel the virtuous circle instead of the vicious circle. You feel the energy, the release, the joy of the virtuous circle, of the space of unconditional love, you see. You feel that, and it liberates you. You see, it reinvents you. It resurrects you, you see. But if there's just one thought, if you're in an unconditional, what you think is an unconditional relationship, and there's just one single thought of conditioning, of not trusting, the whole thing collapses. There's only one thought One thought can separate earth from heaven. One thought can separate the unconditional and turn it into the conditional, you see. And this is what breaks up so many marriages and everything, because I thought it was unconditional, and then you said something that wasn't true. Or you lied, you see. And then we get into Trump. All roads lead to Trump. Or Obama if you want Obama. I don't care. There again, the president is supposed to be the father who loves everyone unconditionally. But wait a minute, he loves them more than me? No, you see. So, anyway, we're looking at the search for the surrogate father that represents the unconditional love that we missed in childhood. But the good side is, because we missed it, we're searching for it. Because we missed it, I think my time is up. So I'm conditioning myself to trying to keep it under 20 minutes. So thanks for dropping in, and I'll see you in the morning.